Erin O'Toole.
Good evening. My name's Erin O'Toole, and I'm an MP from Ontario. Je suis le mari de Rebecca et le père de Molly et Jack.
I am the spouse of Rebecca.
Private sector as a business lawyer. In Parliament, I helped open markets for our exporters in Europe and in Asia. And as our Minister of Veterans Affairs, our government made tremendous progress for veterans and their families. Under Trudeau, our economy is sliding, and he's turning our back on veterans. I want to face him in the next election.
Thank you, O'Toole.
Friends, what a difference a year has made. We went from a balanced budget, the lowest taxes since Saskatchewan's John Diefenbaker, and now we have a $30 billion deficit as far as the eye can see, skyrocketing taxes, and as the question said, no jobs. In fact, the finance minister has said young people better get used to job churn. That is raising the white flag of surrender to our young people. We need to give them the same promise of private sector opportunities that all of us obtained. My experience in the private sector working with small and medium-sized businesses will be key to the plan I unveil in coming weeks.
Stop, Erin O'Toole.
Well, we know the biggest lesson Justin Trudeau learned in his first year. Budgets don't balance themselves, do they? He's actually on a course to have almost $150 billion in new debt for our children, for our grandchildren. My plan is simple and twofold. One is setting priorities and communicating those to Canadians. We need to control spending. In fact, that was the success of the Harper government and why we were the first G7 country to have a balanced budget after the recession. The second part of my plan, to beat Justin Trudeau in 2019. When I was in the military and getting out, a veteran I knew started a craft brewery in Halifax. And like any small business, he struggled to get that going as a new veteran, and he can't sell that beer made in Halifax here in Saskatchewan. That's wrong. And Dan Albus and James Moore have driven this issue on a federal level for a few years. And Conservatives are known for opening up market access in North America, in Europe, in South Korea. I was directly involved in those trade agreements. We have to be known for opening up that access at home as well. This will be a corner piece of my government in the next election.
Thank you.
My answer is yes. Canada has to be at the table for TPP, but to get a deal that's a win for us. The countries in this agreement represent 800 million consumers. We have to be at that table, and the fact that the U.S. and Mexico, our largest trading partners in NAFTA, are there means we really have to be there to secure an agreement. We lost the Keystone Pipeline under Prime Minister Trudeau, and within months he thought a state dinner was good enough for the American-Canadian relationship. Our Prime Minister needs to secure market access in the U.S., make sure there's no protectionism in Europe, in Asia. My experience in trade in the private sector will make me the best candidate to do that.
Thank you, Erin O'Toole.
My plan for immigration is simple. It's got three planks to it. It has to be steady. It can't fluctuate between elections and the recession cycle. We don't want to be hiring more bureaucrats, and we want the economy to be able to absorb these people and the families to have success. That's in the 270,000 range, which was kind of the average in the Harper time. Skills is the second plank, and our government was very good on this. Minister Kenney particularly. Skills plugs people into a job, helps them support their own family here, helps our economy. Third plank is security. Immigration, refugee do go through these screens now. We need to make sure that that happens, but three-point plan is quite simple.
Thank you. Maxime Bernier.
Our immigration policy should...
Thank you. Erin O'Toole.
Thank you. The question wasn't about screening. It was about what happens when they're here, how the federal government can support them. I think two key ways is credential recognition. Dan talked about that across the country for Canadians. We can do that. Some language supports. But as I said, the second pillar of my immigration plan is skills, matching that skill so we know they'll have a job opportunity when they get here. They want to come for the opportunity, not to be a ward of the state. A stone's throw from here is a statue of Ray Natishin. Think of the Ukrainian community in Canada and the tremendous contribution they make here and in Ontario. That was because of the opportunity Canada afforded them.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is the old Liberal Party once again, where their answer to everything is to raise taxes. It's not the answer. It's actually lazy public policy. It won't benefit the environment. It will break the backs of families who are already struggling, seniors on fixed income, small business, and industries, whether it's resource in Western Canada or the auto industry in Ontario, will immediately be uncompetitive versus our U.S. competitors. We need to work with industry, work with innovators to reduce their footprint, incent that reduction, and build a plan that doesn't foist it on Brad Wall and the other premiers, but builds on their work to make our environment a better place.
Thank you, Max. Thank you, Erin O'Toole.
Thank you. On his first trip abroad, the Prime Minister ridiculed the resource sector. He's continually, and his government, pit one industry or one region of the country against one another. You don't support the environment and the economy that way by picking sides in the Confederation. Canada's opportunity, whether it's manufacturing jobs in Ontario that come for supply in the resource sector, whether it's Atlantic Canadians who work in Western Canada and provide for their families in other parts of the country, the opportunity of the resource industry is Canada's opportunity. We need a leader that promotes it and balances the environment alongside it.
Thank you. Andrew Saxton.
Thank you. The Haida Nation in British Columbia has...
Thank you. I think an immediate job would be for Canada to get into the U.S. and tamp down protectionist sentiment that comes up every election cycle. The U.S. are our best friends. They've been our allies. They're also our largest customer. And we need to make sure that our exporters here in Western Canada and across the country have that market access. And we need a prime minister that can stand up and get that deal for Canada. We also have to remind U.S. governors and state legislators that Canada is their largest customer. So this trade, this open border, was a big win under the Harper government. We need to secure those markets in North America to make sure we prosper.
Thank you, Maurice. And we start with Erin O'Toole.
Well, thank you, and I want to thank Robin for that important question. Once again, the Liberals are trying to claim credit for something the Conservatives started. In fact, actually, Jerry Ritz and our Fair Rail for Farmers Act and Randy Hoback, our trade chair, were fighting to get that product to market, including making it move through the Port of Vancouver faster. On agricultural issues, I'm very proud of our track record. Marketing freedom for our farmers. We signed trade agreements that are huge wins for grain and oilseeds, beef, pork around the world. And we fought our U.S. friends on the coal issue for a decade, and it was completed just as the Trudeau government came in. Agriculture is critical to our economy. Hamilton or a family in Halifax, we need a leader that reminds Canadians they didn't vote for a $30 billion deficit. They didn't vote for new taxes on small business. They didn't vote for a carbon tax. They need a government that's competent in the economy, like the Harper government was, and is focused on job creation. That will be my focus, and my experience in the private sector, right through to the cabinet table, shows a track record of success. I also have a style that will allow me to go into Atlantic Canada, Western Canada, and connect with people to win back their trust. They may have voted for us in 2011. We need them with us in 2019. I will be that leader.
Thank you. Candidate?
Thank you. I'm a kid from the suburbs that was taught to work hard, serve my community, and serve my country. That's the same values I'm teaching to my two children right now, and it's how I connect with people when I travel this country. I'm the only person on this stage that served in the military, that worked in the private sector, and served in cabinet. It's that ability to connect with people and the things that are of importance to them that will allow me to be your voice and take our country back from Justin Trudeau in 2019. But to do that, I need your support. See more about me at erinotoole.ca. Thank you very much for being part of our party and making sure we win the next election. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Erin O'Toole, and I'm proud to be the Member of Parliament for Durham in Ontario. Proud to represent my hometowns in Parliament, and was very proud to be part of the Harper government. In fact, the trivia question, I was the last cabinet minister appointed by Prime Minister Harper. The first chapter of the modern Conservative story is an incredible one. We brought together the Conservative movement, went to minority government, to majority, weathered the financial storm of the global recession better than any other G7 country. The only G7 country with a balanced budget. We did it while lowering taxes. We also rebuilt the Canadian Armed Forces and stood tall around the world on foreign policy based on our values and our allies. I want to be your leader to help write the next chapter, building on the strengths of the first chapter and using conservative principles to reach out to more voters, particularly millennial voters, who the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister just said better get used to job churn. That is an absence of leadership, ladies and gentlemen, giving up on a generation of people saying you better get used to being underemployed. We need a leader that can reach out and build bridges based on their experience and their abilities and their track record. I'm the only candidate in this race with experience in the Canadian Armed Forces, wearing a uniform, in the private sector, and as a cabinet minister, building consensus based on conservative principles to go forward and win. I am your candidate that can take on Mr. Trudeau and win the next election. Thank you very much. Thank you for the question, Tracy. We were talking about this at our speed dating table. Look, nothing upset me more about the last Liberal government, the Chrétien government, and how they demonized sport shooters and hunters, saying they were tackling crime by bringing out the long gun registry. That did nothing for crime, and those people, those Canadians, are some of the most law-abiding citizens we have. That's why I worked with Larry Miller on his firearm variant bill to say, as Andrew said, we shouldn't be regulating based on what one or two people say in an office tower in Ottawa. We should have public safety, but we should use organizations like yours to forge policy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The residents of my riding will think this was a plant question because since coming to Ottawa, I've been a big supporter of the nuclear industry. In fact, I say judge all candidates on what they did before politics, during politics. After coming to Ottawa, I started a caucus of supporters of the nuclear industry for that exact reason. Most people don't understand its benefit, not just to the economy, but the 70,000 people that work in the industry. When I was Trade Parliamentary Secretary in South Korea and in Europe, I leveraged the support of the jobs and technology related to this very industry, which for generations has been selling our technology abroad. We need to continue that. Thank you very much, Greg. As my friends in the media here would know, as soon as I was elected, I began engaging. I've said to people we have to engage in the coffee shops, in the House of Commons, but also in the campuses. When I was given the Veterans Affairs portfolio, there were people protesting and suing the government. Some of those same veterans are now supporting my leadership campaign. Why? Because I was respectful, knowledgeable, and I communicated in all channels. Too often we let our opponents define us. We were against science. We were against veterans. We're not. We have to win the communications war, and I'll be your candidate to do it. Thank you for the question, Trevor. I think the Harper government did a great partnership with provinces by providing steady and predictable funding in areas like health. You look at the Chrétien government, they balanced the books by cutting transfers and making Mike Harris make the tough decisions within the provincial budget. We need steady and predictable funding as an approach. We also need to make sure that they don't foist solutions like we've seen with the Trudeau. As a team builder, something I learned in uniform, I build teams. That's what I did as minister. In fact, my office was veterans coming out of the private sector to help me move forward. I'll bring that to the party. I like to say if I wasn't a conservative before I flew on Sea King helicopters, I certainly was after. And we're now just replacing that helicopter now, a generation later, because of the politics played by the Liberal government on defense. 2% needs to be our goal, but fundamentally we have to give the men and women of our country what they need to do the job we ask them to do. The Conservative government started doing that. I would continue that. The UN peacekeeping option Mr. Trudeau's exploring is not just for his UN security seat, it's also so he can cut the defense budget, which he's already started doing. As I've always said, you have to judge each of us on what we've done before running for this leadership. Calgary MP Ron Liebert and I, in this new parliament, proposed the buddy system. So all MPs in our caucus have buddy ridings across the country that we help. In the last few years, I've also been writing blogs on Huffington Post. I have a podcast because ridings with small organizations can push out materials from the caucus that are elected. And finally, I don't agree with free memberships. We have conservative principles. We want people to share those principles when they join. How much is something that's free? How much is it valued by the people that hold it? This is such a fundamental issue. That's why I raised it in the outset, how I talked about Trudeau government and Bill Morneau giving up on our young people, on a new generation of workers. We need to make sure as a party we use our conservative principles to make sure we speak to them in the next election. They looked for the celebrity and some change in the last election. They're going to be looking for competence. They're going to be looking for opportunity. After 3 more years of job churn, living in basements, unpaid internships, Trudeau is giving up on a generation. I'm going to be speaking to that generation and using conservative approach to give them opportunity, and many of them will come to our party. And with a 10-year-old daughter, I tend to agree with Andrew on a sliding scale. No, in all honesty, Marissa Bellicott had a bill on equal parenting and the problems with divorce. I voted in favor of that to go to second reading. I've been a supporter as a lawyer of collaborative law to try and take the fighting out of divorce proceedings so that the children's growth is not impacted. On the age of consent, I would not plan on making any changes on top of what was made just before I joined the last Parliament under the Harper government. But we have to be open to have these discussions. Any discussion that Canadian thinks important, we should be welcoming those debates. Good question. Sure this wasn't for Max? Listen, as one of the few candidates up here with real significant private sector experience, I don't support welfare. But as a riding that benefited from GM from the loans that have since been paid back, we have to remember and Max voted for that package during the depths of the recession. It's important for politicians when you're running for leader not to make promises you can't achieve. And we can't predict the future. So I agree in a competitive, low-tax environment that is private sector driven, but making sure we don't box us in a campaign for the ads of the next election. In the last few years, I've been quite proud of James Moore and Dan Elvis and our team doing this on the Free My Grape, Free My Beer initiative. I spoke in Parliament during the Conservative debate on this very subject. We should be intervening in the court case right now in New Brunswick, where a consumer is fighting these things that the government should be taking the lead on. If we did this, not just for goods and services and giving you more choice as Conservatives, on the energy side, it was David Peterson that cut the tie between Manitoba and Ontario that would have brought us cheaper power and would have brought power to the Ring of Fire in the north. We can't let governments bobble this question in the future. We need freer trade. I agree with Andrew, c'est très important pour notre chef de parle français. It's also very important for us to respect provincial autonomy, as Prime Minister Harper did very well, and you saw the best nationalism numbers, the most support for United Canada under Conservative Prime Minister Harper. It's also important for us to remember, friends, we are appealing to Canadians that share our approach to government. Smaller government, entrepreneurialism, lower taxes, a strong Canada in the world. We've got 12 amazing MPs in Quebec. We need to speak with Quebecers that share that same view of government. Thank you very much, Pierre, and thank you very much to the ridings that did this. What a great way to kick off our leadership race in the Ottawa area. And if only the question period had such intelligent answers, all aside, I wish it did. Look, friends, I like to say I'm a kid that grew up in suburban Ontario in the middle class that was raised on the values of hard work and serving your community and country. That's why after high school I joined the military. It allowed me to live across this country. And when I finished that time, my wife helped put me through law school in Halifax, and I moved back to my hometown to practice law. I worked with small businesses, entrepreneurs in my riding and across Ontario, and also with large businesses. In fact, the largest private sector employer in Eastern Ontario, with the plant in Brockville that competes with not just global plants, but American plants. I know that the carbon tax will suck jobs from Ontario to the United States where there will be no tax. We need a leader that can reach out and build consensus with some of those voters that voted in 08 and 11 for us, that are open to our message of balanced budgets, of low taxes, of making sure the men and women in uniform have what they need, and for Canada to take a strong position principled in the world. People voted for that and will again if we have a leader that connects those principles with a track record of experience and trust, and an ability to turn people that were adversarial into allies. But to win in 2019, I need your support.